Blazing Rants are a segment where I discuss topics relating to the subject of video games and/or anime. It contains my raw biased opinion and is created for the purpose of your debate, examination, or discussion. Now that that's cleared up, let's begin. Well, this is most certainly a surprise. I mean, when the Fire Emblem Direct was announced, we knew we were going to get more information on Fire Emblem Warriors and the Fire Emblem mobile game, but a remake of a Japan-exclusive Fire Emblem game? That certainly took us all by surprise. Nevertheless, Fire Emblem Echoes Shadows of Valentia was a wonderful surprise. I mean, a brand new Fire Emblem game based on one of the classics updated for a modern audience, who would say no to that? And many fans, myself included, are very hyped for this game. While that's all well and good, as the days went by and the more I thought about this game, both positively and negatively, as well as seeing all the different opinions and expectations flying around the internet, it made me wonder how much this game will impact the series, since it is no surprise that this series has been returned from near death thanks to the 3DS games. But with a game like this that is a remake that looks to be a mix of both the old and the new, will it be just as successful as Awakening Fates? Will the classics be able to win over newer fans? What will this mean for Fire Emblem from now on? And what other plans does Nintendo and Intelligent Systems have in store for the franchise? So I asked this question: how will Fire Emblem Echoes affect the future of the series? Let's find out. First, a quick history lesson. Fire Emblem Echoes Shadows of Valentia is a remake of the second game in the Fire Emblem series, Fire Emblem Gaiden. Now, Gaiden is a somewhat oddball in the Fire Emblem series. Since it was the second game of the franchise, there are a lot of mechanics and features exclusive to this game, which makes it feel very different from the traditional Fire Emblem norm. Though to be fair, there are many NES sequels that are very different from their originals and considered the black sheep of their franchises. Just look at Mario, Zelda, and Castlevania. Since the series was just starting out, I imagine Intelligent Systems were experimenting a lot with the series formula, so it makes sense as to why this game is so different. But on top of that, this is the first game not to feature Marth, but rather the two friends Arm and Celica. Despite being different, many fans still hold Gaiden in high regard for being a very standout Fire Emblem game and introducing many elements that the series would revisit on occasion. With that out of the way, let's look at the game itself based on the trailer. Obviously, the game has received a massive facelift, with a whole new art style and updated 3D graphics. Hell, we even get anime-style cutscenes along with being the first Fire Emblem game to be fully voice acted. Though technically Tokyo Mirage Sessions did it first, but honestly at this point no one really acknowledges that game. In keeping with the spirit of the original, features like an overworld map, visiting villages and dungeon exploring are still present here, and hell, we even get a proper battle window this time. Once again, reclassing is available, as well as taking a minimum of 1 damage from enemy attacks, so it looks like everything that was in Gaiden is here and accounted for. So what's my take on it? Well, like most people, I'm very excited for this game. Now unfortunately, I haven't played the original Fire Emblem Gaiden, though I am aware of its significance, and the fact that this game is being made is such a delight, since now I'll be able to play this game without resorting to emulators or dealing with just how dated Gaiden is, as well as all the new features it will incorporate from the more recent games. I hope. The main draw of this game for me personally is how different this game is. I've always had a soft spot for games that try to be ambitious even if they don't pull it off in the end, and Echoes looks to be a very ambitious Fire Emblem game. All the features like dungeon exploring, visiting villages and so on are aspects that really appeal to me and would make this a very unique experience. In fact, the entire setup reminds me of Zelda 2: The Adventure of Link, exploring overworlds, visiting towns, transitioning from the map to a battle screen when engaging enemies, it's all very similar. I love the updates to the visuals and the art style is gorgeous, feeling like a nice mix of Sacred Stones and Awakening. Plus I'm down with full voice acting in the Fire Emblem game, and all in all, this game looks great. I do have my concerns though. First of all, while this game is pretty much a remake, how much of this game are they going to change for the better, or will they just update it word for word with a new coat of paint? Based on what I've seen, that doesn't seem to be the case, but I hope that whatever glaring issues this game originally had are removed, since Gaiden is often said to be a very archaic game, and I hope that none of that affects the quality of this remake, especially since I imagine some of the features in Gaiden may not translate well for a more modern audience. Plus, I feel there should be some new features to give this game some more depth. Additionally, I'm curious to see how much of the new mechanics will be implemented into Echoes, because personally, I feel it'd be rather crappy if they didn't include some of the more common staples like trading, skills, and supports in this game, and this wouldn't be the first time Intelligent Systems have done this. One of my biggest problems with Shadow Dragon is that despite being a remake, a lot of the elements from modern Fire Emblem games were not featured in this game, which made it feel very lackluster, though thankfully they fixed that in Heroes of Light and Shadow, so hopefully this is not the case with Echoes. I'm also worried that people may have their expectations set a little too high for this game. I mean, I'm excited for this game, don't get me wrong, but remember that they're remaking an NES-style Fire Emblem game. I don't think this is going to be the next huge step for the franchise, or we're going to reach Tellius levels of depth or anything like that. Not to mention, I'm also worried if they update this game a little too much. Fire Emblem Gaiden is such a different Fire Emblem game that perhaps the intelligent systems would be more inclined to make it feel like the 3DS games since they don't want to lose the new audience they have. I mean, we don't know at this point, and they did say that everything that made Gaiden what it was is still there. But after the success of the most recent Fire Emblem games, it makes me wonder if they'll have things like avatars again and allow us to marry other characters. Will they keep casual in Phoenix mode? Will pair up be a thing? Will they have cameos from other Fire Emblem characters? Honestly, at this point, I don't know, and to be honest, I'm just worried that they might change things a little too much and cause the game to lose its identity. So that's what I think of the game, but what does it mean for the Fire Emblem series? Well, honestly, I feel this could be the game to make or break the Fire Emblem series. Now before you get ahead of yourself, let me explain. It's clear that Fire Emblem Echoes is a game trying to win over both old and new fans, and the fact that Nintendo have remade one of the most obscure Fire Emblem games that was a Japan exclusive shows that they have a lot of confidence in this series, so I imagine if this game is successful, this could open the door to many more Fire Emblem remakes. Just imagine it. Remakes of Genealogy of the Holy War and Thracia 776 with the same treatment as this game, or what about a HD version of the Celica series? In fact, based on the Fire Emblem Heroes trailer, Nintendo's been showing a lot of love towards Binding Blade, so a remake of that wouldn't be too far-fetched at this point. If that were to happen, it would be the best time in the world to be a Fire Emblem fan, giving new players a chance to experience these games for the first time, as well as improving these games with everything that made the new games great, and adding new features would be a love letter for the veterans. This is something I hope does happen, because those games still hold great significance for the series and they should be given the chance to shine in all areas of the world. On top of that, I feel this game has the potential to bridge the gap between the old and the new Fire Emblem fans, or at least start to bridge it. I think it's clear at this point that there is a divide in the Fire Emblem fanbase, with the older fans being not very kind to Awakening and Fates, and the newer fans being turned off by the older games and a little biased towards the 3DS ones. Now granted, that's not always the case since there are many fans like myself that love and accept both the old and the new, but you can't ignore the split between the two factions. While I feel if all goes well, this could help bring both sides together. I could imagine older fans being very happy with this remake and all the updates to the gameplay and art style, so they would appreciate the newer games more and the improvements they've made to the series formula, while at the same time newer fans could be exposed to a side of Fire Emblem they've never seen and really enjoy what this game does differently, as well as get them more interested in the older games and be more understandable towards the flaws of the 3DS titles. This is something I am very hopeful for, though there's always the chance this game could backfire, since perhaps the older fans might be harsh on the changes to the original and shun this game for trying to incorporate elements from the new games, and newer fans might not be too keen on a game that is so different to Awakening and Fates, and be even more put off by the classics as a whole because of this. Granted, I'm just grasping at straws here, but there's always a chance this could happen, and let's say for instance because of the backlash, this game performs poorly in sales. Then my biggest fear is likely going to happen, because there is a good chance Nintendo will focus purely on the 3DS style Fire Emblem games and forget the old games even exist. Now some of you may say I'm overreacting, which I could be, don't get me wrong, but let's really think about this. Before Awakening, Nintendo were ready to outright kill off Fire Emblem due to the poor performance of the Telios games and Shadow Dragon, and even then they only sold just under 500,000 units at worst, so if this game doesn't do too well, they will more than likely focus on slowly trying to ride off Awakening's success since it did so well, and Fates did just as well because it was similar to Awakening. Not to mention, this doesn't just apply to Fire Emblem, Nintendo has a history of doing something like this. I mean, after Other M didn't do very well, Nintendo pretty much ignored Metroid until Federation Force, which made things even worse. We haven't had an F-Zero game since 2004, and probably won't for God knows how long because they stopped making millions, and even though Nintendo hoped Star Fox Zero would be a success, I guarantee you that due to it being a total flop, they will not do another Star Fox game again in years, and hell, maybe never again. Plus, Nintendo has a habit of trying to recreate the success of one game over and over again. In fact, many Zelda fans argue that games like Twilight Princess were trying too hard to live up to the success of Ocarina of Time, or that there are way too many new Super Mario Bros. Games because they are such safe options for Nintendo and will always make money, so I wouldn't put it past them to focus purely on using Awakening as a base for all future Fire Emblem games. All of this is just speculation though, and I hope with all my heart that Fire Emblem Echoes is a huge success and everything comes up roses. You know something? In my first Rant video, I pointed out that thanks to Awakening and Fates, the door had been open for all sorts of possibilities for the franchise, and that anything could happen for better or for worse. Well, I think it's safe to say that things have turned out for the better. We've got a remake of a Japan-exclusive classic, an awesome mobile game, a Dynasty Warriors spin-off which I'm just gushing over, and even a new console Fire Emblem game. At this point, I feel we're in a golden age of Fire Emblem, and honestly, we've got Awakening and Fates to thank for that. And even though I've always loved these games and been thankful for them saving the series, now it just makes me appreciate them even more for the amount of doors they've opened, and waiting for us on the other side of that doorway is Fire Emblem Echoes, Shadows of Valentia. This has been Blazing Knight. I wish you all a great night, take care, and thank you all for joining me in this video. I hope you all enjoyed it, and what do you think of Fire Emblem Echoes, and what are your hopes and fears for the game, and what do you think it means for the series? Let me know in the comments below. Anyway, in the meantime, be sure to check out my last video, the Fire Emblem Direct discussion featuring my buddy Scheming Fox. Also, don't forget to check out my video discussing whether or not Awakening and Fates have ruined Fire Emblem. Anyway, thank you all very much for watching, don't forget to follow me on Twitter at BlazingKnight, and also don't forget to follow me on Amino to see posts and lists not featured on my channel, or just have a friendly chat with me. Anyway, that's it from me, I'll see you all next time.